नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter number 17, Verse number 1. So this is continuation of description of Pururava's dynasty, who is son of Ila and Buddha, the moon dynasty. So यह पुरुरवस्सा पुत्र आयुस्तस्या भवन सुतः नहुष क्षत्रवृद्धश्च रजि रंभश्च वीर्यवान्. So Pururava, he had sons, 4 sons. No, he had 6 sons earlier we studied. So one of them was Ayu, right? We had Ayu, Ritayu, Sutayu. So now he is talking about the dynasty coming from Ayu. This whole chapter is just a bunch of names, nothing much there. It's one of the smallest chapters. So Ayu had 4 sons, Nahusha, Kshatravriddha, Raji, Rambha, and then Anena, 5. It's in the next sloka. So out of this, Nahusha is the one who is famous, and he will talk about him later. So before he wants to speak of about the others. As far as commentary, there is hardly anything on this. Ayor ela sutasyatra prokta sapta dase sutaha chatra viddha daya khyata alarkadya yadanvaye. So in this 17th chapter, there is a description of sons of Ayu, who was Ayu's son, Ela's son, and then his sons Kshatravriddha, etc., and also about Alarka, who came in his dynasty. So Anena iti Rajendra Shunu Kshatravriddho Anvayam Kshatravriddha Sutasya Asan Suhotrasya Atmaja Straya. So he says that, O king, hear from me first the dynasty from Kshatravriddha, the second son. So Kshatravriddha Sutasya Asan Suhotra. Se Atmajastriya. So the son of Kshatravriddha is Suhotra, and Suhotra's son was, Suhotra had 3 sons, Kashya, Kusho, Gritsmada iti, Gritsamadabhut, Shunaka, Shaunko Yasya, Bahurich Parvamuni. And he had 3 sons named as Kashya, Kusha and Gritsmada. And Gritsamad's son was Shunaka. And Shunaka had a son named Shaunaka, who became Brahavrich Pravaramuni, means the knower of the Vedas. So he became Brahmana. Kashyasya Kashi, the son of Kashya was Kashi. Tatputro Rashtra, his son was Rashtra, and his son was Dirghtama. Dhanvantari Darghtama Ayurveda Pravartaka. Dirghtama's son was Dhanvantari. Dhanvantari is the propagator of Ayurveda. So how Dhanvantari came here? There is no ocean here. He says he is son of Dirghtama.
Same name.
But he is also Ayurveda. So there are two Dhanvantari or one Dhanvantari? One? So which one?
The one from the ocean.
And this one who is son of Dirktama? Is not Dhanvantari? Kalpa Bheda, very good. So he is the same Dhanvantari, just that now he is born from here.
So what happened to the earlier one?
He came, he gave the pot and he went away. Right? As soon as he appeared with the pot, then Asuras ran and snatched away from his hand. Then what is supposed to do? He said, okay, my job is done, I leave. So he left. And now he came again. So now he came to Kashi. Because this Kashi is the one who was in Kashi. So he is the propagator of Ayurveda. And he came, there is a Dhanvantari Trayodashi which comes 2 days before Deepavali. That is supposed to be his birthday. Yagyabhuk Vasudevansha Smritmatrarti Nashanah Tatputrah Ketumanasya Jagyesh Bhimrathastata. So he is not only propagator of Ayurveda, but he also took portion in Yagya. Remember before that Aswani Kumaras, who are doctors of Ayurveda, they were not allowed to take part in Yagya. Because doctors are generally considered as impure. All this putting injection, cutting somebody's thing. So they didn't want them that they sit in the Yagya. Then Chavan Rishi, he made them qualified. So here we see Dhanvantari is also called Yagbhuk. And he is a Vasudevansha, he is part of Vasudeva. So therefore he is the same Dhanvantari. And Smriti Matra Arti Nashana. If you remember Dhanvantari, then your disease is cured. His son's name was Ketuman, and Ketuman's son's name was Bhimratha. From Bhimratha came Devodas, and his son was Dyuman. From Dyuman came Pratardan. Some say that Dyuman is same as Pratardan. So Saiva Satrujit is also called Satrujit. Vatsaraja, Vatsa, Ritadhvaja, iti Rita. So he is all having all these names. Tatha Kuvalayashvas iti Prokto Alarkadayastata. And he is also known as Kuvalayashva. There is a long story of Kuvalayashva, or this king Pratardan, how he got this name. There was a sage called Galva. Galva one day came at the door of King Ritadhvaja. So he received him. He had a horse. This horse name was Kovalaya. And horse was very powerful and very beautiful. So the king asked him that, what can I do for you? So he said that I have an ashram and there is one Daitya who is always coming and disturbing me. His name is Patal Ketu. So Patala is beyond Atala. If you go beyond Atlantic Ocean, then comes Patala. To go really deep into the water. So he says he always comes and troubles me. Sometimes he becomes a lion, sometimes elephant, sometimes tiger. So I am sick of him. So the king said, why don't you curse him? You people are quite fond of giving curse. So I said, well, I do not want to do that because giving curse means I will lose my power. Because giving curse, if you harm somebody, you also have to lose something in the process. So I just tolerate. So the king said, what do you want me to do? He says, I want that you kill him. And you can do it because I have a very special horse. This horse is given by Sun God. Sun God is having chariot on which he moves. He has 7 horses, 7 rays, 7 days. So he says it came one day, I was sitting and meditating, then this horse appeared and I thought this is also demon now, coming in the force of horse like Kesi. So I became afraid, but then there was a Bhavishyavani, some statement from the Nabha, from sky, and said, do not worry, you take this horse to King Ritadhvaja, and this horse has unobstructed movement. He can go anywhere, in water, in air. It's like 3 in 1. It can fly like a plane, it can run on the land like a car, it can also go in water like a boat. So this is a new invention. Now they're also making planes like that, right? So he says you can take this and you can kill this. So the king was very happy because he wanted a horse like this. So he went. So he went to his ashram and he was sitting there. Then this Daitya came. And this Daitya came in the form of a boar. So the king chased him and he started running away. And he ran and he ran. So the king chased him because he also had a horse who would run any speed. So finally this Daitya went inside the hole and went to Patal Loka. So the king also followed him and he shot him with an arrow. So when he was killed, then he was surprised. He was wondering, where is this? Because this place was so wonderful. Because these patalas are like heavenly places. So he saw it was so beautiful, like going to Mauritius. Everything was very green and nice air, a lot of forest, waterfalls and beautiful people. So he was going around, then he saw one beautiful girl, and as soon as he saw the girl went inside the palace. So he was so fascinated by this girl that he followed her. And when he went inside, there was a bed inside the palace, and this girl came there and he fell on the bed and fainted. So he said, oh my God, what happened? So he also sat down. Then another girl came and she started fanning her to revive her. So this boy asked that, who is she? So he said that she told him that she is the daughter of Gandharva called Vishwavasu. Like Chitraratha, there is another famous Gandharva, Vishwavasu. And she has been kidnapped by this Patal Ketu. And he wanted to marry her after 2-3 days. So, but it was predicted that if somebody could kill this Patal Ketu, then she will marry him. So then he said that why did she faint? So he said that because she saw you and you are so beautiful. So she just fainted by seeing your beauty. And then he asked that, who are you? So she said, I am also the daughter of another Gandharva. And my father was killed by this Daitya. And then I have been with her to give her company. So then she came back to consciousness and they got married. So now he came back with a wife. So that's how they got married, and this wife's name was Madalasa. So it's a very long story, because then this Patal Ketu had a brother Talketu. He played a trick and Madalasa was killed, then she was revived. Very long story. But the important thing of Madalasa is that Madalasa was a realized person. So she gave birth to 4 sons. The youngest of them is Alarka, which is mentioned here. So it is stated here that Alarka Shashti Tatha Kovalashva iti Prokto Alarka Dayastata. So because of this horse whose name was Kovalaya, therefore he got the name as Kovalasva. One who has the horse, Kovalasva. Ashva means horse. So Alarka, horse is also a symbol of sun god. That's why they have this horse sacrifice. It's related with sun. This Ashwamedha. So this Madalasa, this is very interesting story about Madalasa, and it shows the influence of mother on children. So even when she was pregnant, she would talk to the child, and when the baby was born and will be lying in the cradle, she will preach to the child, you are not this body, you are Atma, Nitya Suddha Buddha Mukta Atma, you are eternal, you are pure, you are liberated, you have nothing to do with this body, body is not your true self. She will preach like this. And when the children will grow up, they will be not interested in material life. They will leave, go to forest, become sadhus. So one by one, she turned 3 of her sons into sadhus. They all left because she will regularly preach to them. She will tell them, don't be attached to all this world, this no parents, no mother, these are all temporary relations. We have had many mothers and many fathers in the past. This life is like a flow of the river. In the river, sometimes two things come together, then they get separated. Right? Some two pieces of grass may come together for some time, flow together, then they separate. So that's how life is. So then these first three sons, they became sadhus. Then the fourth one was born, Alarka. So Alarka was born, then the king came and told the wife that at least leave one son so that this kingdom can continue. Somebody has to rule the king after me. So she says, please don't preach to him. So she agreed. So this is the Alarka who became the king. Anybody remember the word Alarka coming earlier somewhere? No? Does it come in the 3rd chapter of 1st canto? I thought it comes there somewhere. 3rd chapter, 11th sloka. Sasthayatre rapatvam vrita prapto ansuya anvikshi kamalarkaya praharadadibhyo chivan. It's about Dattatreya. So it said that Dattatreya, he gave knowledge to Alarka and to Prahlad. So this is the same Alarka. Because later on he also gave up his kingdom and became sadhu. But the interesting thing about Dattatreya is that those people who worship Dattatreya, they live very long life. So we know about Kartavirya Arjuna. He was ruling for 20,000 years, and if Parsuram had not killed him, he would have continued. And Alarka ruled for 66,000 years. That's a lot of time. So some gene manipulation was there by Dattatreya. So it says Shashti Varsha Sahasrani Shashti Varsha Shatani Cha Nalarka Dapro Rajan Medinim Bubujhe Yuva. It says there is no other king in the history who ruled over earth for 66,000 years and he remained young. Not that he became old. So at present there is a lot of research going on for rejuvenating the body, and they have discovered what makes one old. Now they are working. It's actually the genes. Certain things happen and then they start dismantling. So now they have figured it out. So one day you will see maybe President of America will continue to rule, change the constitution. At present they are not allowed to contest for more than twice. They will change and they will rule 66,000 years. Because that's where they are doing research in Harvard about this genetics. How to stop aging. So this has been of interest for human beings. No other animal tries this. But human beings have always been interested. Right? That's why they are searching for this elixir of life. in the age of enlightenment. In India, they already discovered the Amrita. In Ayurveda, they have Kaya Kalpa. Tantra also they have Kaya Kalpa. You have to go for 40 days in a kuti, dark, and just drink milk. Nothing else. If you can do that for 40 days, all your cells revived. Some people used to do that. Yeah, there's some sadhu in Punjab, he lived 160 years. There's a book about it. It was just in last century, I think. So anyway, Alarka is famous king. Alarkat santatis tasmat sunitho atha suketanaha dharmaketu sutas tasmat satyaketu rajayata. So Alarka had many sons, but one of them was Santati. His son's name was Sunitha, and from Sunitha came Suketana. From Suketana came Dharmaketu. From Dharmaketu came Satyaketu. And Dhrishtaketu sutastasmat sukumara kshitishvarha vitihotrasya bhargoto bharg bhumir apuhunnapa. So then came Dhrishtaketu, and Dhrishtaketu's son was Sukumar, who ruled over the earth. And from Sukumar came Vitihotra, from Vitihotra came Bharga, and Bharga came Bhargbhumi. Iti me Kashayo Bhupaha Kshatravidhyanvayain Rambhasya Rabhasa Putro Gambhiras Chakriyas Tata. So these are coming from Kashi in the line of Kshatravriddha. And then he comes to the fourth son, who is of Pururava, Ayu. Ayu is son of Pururava. So his name is Rambha. Rambha's son's name was Rabhasa. And his name was Gambhira. And from Gambhira came Akriya. Now this is interesting thing. It says that Tasya Kshetre Brahma Jagye Shunu Vansham Anenasa. The sons of Akriya became Brahmanas. And therefore that came to the end of Kshatriya in that line. So he is called Akriya anyway, not acting. So he got Brahmanas. They were not interested in ruling. So here we see some instances where Kshatriyas become Brahmanas. So Rishabdev had 100 sons. First 9 became Brahmanas, right? The sages. So then comes the line of Anena. Anena was the fifth son of Ayu. Suddha, Anena's son was Suddha. And Suddha's son was Suchi. So Suddhas tata Suchis tasmat Trikakuda Dharma Sarathi. From him came Trikakuda, and from Trikakuda came Dharma Sarathi. Tattah Santarayo Jagye Kritkritya Sa Atmavan Raje Pancha Satanyasan Putranam Amita Aujasha. And from Dharma Sarathi came Shantaraya. And Shantaraya was Atmagyani. He was self-realized Therefore, he did not produce any children. So that brought an end to him, his dynasty. So Kritkritya means perfected being, Atmavan. Then comes Raji, the third son of Ayu. So Raji has 500 sons. Panchshatani asan putranam amit aujasam. And they were all very powerful. So this 500, 10,000, this also must be some other process. Or they really lived very long lives. Is to have 500 sons. Either you have to have many wives. If you have one wife, it takes 500 years. So just like Dhritarashtra had 100. So this Raji was very powerful. Devai abhyarthito daityan hatva indraya adad divam. So Indra, he is always troubled by the daityas. All the time there is cold war going on between them, and sometimes it is hot war. So Indra took help from King Raji, that you please help me to fight these Daityas who have snatched away his kingdom. So Raji went and he fought, and he defeated the Daityas, and he gave the kingdom to Indra. So this is what is said, Devair abhyarthito daityan hatva indraya adat divam. Being requested by the Devas, he fought with the Daityas and gave the kingdom of heaven to Indra. But what did Indra do? Indra said, no, you keep the kingdom, I will just be here, because as long as you are there, then no one will trouble me. Otherwise, as soon as you leave, then they will come and attack me again. So therefore it says, Indras tasmai punardatva grihitva charnau rajehe atmanam arpayamasa prahladadir arishankita. So what did he do? That he took shelter of Raji. Must be so powerful that Indra is taking shelter. And he says, please, you have the kingdom and I am under your shelter. Why? Because he was afraid of Prahlad. Because Prahlad is a devotee, but he was also Daitya. Don't think that he was not fighting. He also attacked Indra. People think that Prahlad was just doing some japa. He's son of Hiranyakashipu. And he has people around him who are always having an itch to fight. So he will also go. There is a story that once he had a fight with Narnar and Rishi also in Namisaranya. Big fight.
Where is this story?
Where is the story that I don't remember? Maybe in Mahabharata. There's all types of stories. So Prahlad he also has a long life. So Prahladari Arishankitaha. So he was afraid of his enemy Prahlad, Indra, that if he comes, then he will take over. So therefore he gave kingdom to Raji. So Raji was happy that he has his kingdom on earth. He is also ruling over heaven, Svargaloka. But then after some time, he retired and he gave the kingdom to his sons. So when he gave the kingdom to his sons, then Indra wanted it back. They refused. He says, what? This is the property of father. How can we give it to you? So therefore it says, Pitari uprate putra yachmanaya no dadu. So when the father retired, then Indra came and asked the sons that please give my kingdom back to me. So they did not give. Says, how is it your kingdom? You gave it to our father. Now how it is yours? If you give something to somebody, it becomes that person's. So you cannot go, well, my father gave it to you, now you give it to me. No, but your father did not tell like this. Or you give to somebody and then you go back and ask for it to the sons, that I gave to your father. It's like that, So now you give it to me. So they did not give. Trivishtupam Mahindraya Yagya Bhagan Samadadu. So they refused and said that it is not possible. Not only that, they were also taking the portion of Yagya which was meant for Indra. So whenever Indra is Swaha, they will take it. Because they are on the post of Indra. So Indra was starving. So therefore he says that in Mahindraya Yagya Bhagan Samadadu. So then there was a problem. So then what happened? Indra went to his guru that please somehow get my kingdom back from these people. So his guru, what he did a yagya that is called Abhichar. Abhichar karma is prescribed in Atharvaveda, by which you can kill the enemy, you can create trouble, you can influence the mind, all these things. Maran, Uchchatan, Vashikaran. So he did that, and Balbhit Tanayan Raje Avadhit Bhranshitan Margat. So then Indra, he killed them because they became corrupt because of this. When he did the yagya, then this influenced the mind of the sons of Raji. They became adharmic. At that time Indra came and he killed all of them. So now no more to continue. So then he talks about Kusha, who was son of Kshatrivriddha. Kushat prati Kshatrivriddhat Sanjayastat suto Jayaha. So from him came Sanjaya, from him came Jaya. Tataha Kritaha Kritasyapi Jagge Hairvana. Then came Krita, from Krita came Hairvana. Sahadevas tato hino Jayasenastu tatsata. Then came Sahadeva, and from him came Hina. From Hina came Jayasena. Sankita tasya cha Jaya Kshatra Dharma Maharatha Kshatra Vridhanvaya Bhopa Shrinuvan Samcha Nahushat. So then from Jayasena came Sankita and Sankriti, not Sankriti. And from Sankriti came Maharathi, who was very valorous. So So this are the kings which came in the line of Kshatravriddha, who was the second son. So he has described Kshatravriddha, Raji, Rambha and Anena. These four sons of Ayu. And now the fifth one is Nahusha. So Nahusha he is going to describe in the next chapter. And that we will read tomorrow. So this is the end of this chapter. And there is hardly any commentary on this. Anyway, whatever is there is not of much importance. So we'll stop here unless somebody has a question to ask.
Small question. In verse 14, Prahlad seems to be referred to as Prahrad. Is there any significance to that?
Well, in Sanskrit there is a rule, it is called Dalayo, Ralayo, Rakyam. Da, Ra and La, they are exchanged. You have heard the name Raghu? Raghuvansa or Raghava? It actually is Laghu. But La has been replaced by Ra. So actually Raghu means, Laghu means small. Raghava means same as Laghava.
Doesn't quite sound so royally impressive to be called Laghu.
That's why we call it Raghu. So you may hear this locally in Vraja area. The La is quite often pronounced as Ra. Like rice in Hindi is called chawal, but here they will call it a chawar, chamar, sometimes chamar. So in Sanskrit, so therefore Prahrad means same as Prahlad. But in Bhagavatam, wherever the name comes, you will see it is only Prahrad. It is not Prahlad. I think many places I have seen only Prahrad.
In Japanese also La is replaced by R, like Balkishan is Barukishan.
So Pratap says that in Japanese also, La is replaced by Ra. If you have seen Japanese pronouncing Indian names, then they will pronounce like that. So it is Sanskrit, it's like that.
They also sing like Hale Ram, they sing Hale. Yeah. So R and L are replaced by each other.
So I've also heard some.
Pratap becomes Paltam.
I've heard some devotees actually chanting like Japanese, saying Halelam, Halelam, Halelam. But I have also heard sometimes some devotees saying Hare Ram, Hare Ram. They're changing Ra into Da. So this Ra, Da, La, there is some affinity among them. So like in Hindi you say Daldo, here in Braj they will say Dardo. Right? So La is replaced by Ra many times, and Ra other way around also in Japanese. So in Sanskrit it is not very often, but sometimes you see this. As I said, like this Raghu is actually Laghu. Yes.
Well, in Vishwanath Chakravarti's commentary, he says something here about Atha Guna Bahubrihi compound on this Prahradadi Adi Shankarita.
So there are Bahuvrihi Samasis of two types. It is called what is called asamvigyan, atad samvigyan and samvigyan. It's like if you say that drishta krishnam anaya. So drishta krishnam means one who has seen Krishna. Drishta means seen and Krishna is Krishna. So I say bring that person who has seen Krishna. So here the person who has seen Krishna, the Krishna is not there. Right? So in the Bahuvrihi, although word Krishna is there, so atad gun samvigyan means that gun is not there, which is part of the samas. Krishna is not there. But if I say dhrit malyam anaya, bring the person who is wearing the garland. So here the person is coming and the garland is also coming. So this is tadgun samvigyan bahuri. So in bahuri samas, that characteristic can be with that object about which bahuri is there, or it cannot be. So in case of Drishta Krishna, Krishna is not there, only the person is there who has seen. But if you say Dhrit Malya, then he is there. Malya is there. So that's what he's saying. So in this case, Prahaladadi Ariti Atad Gun Samvigyanoyam Brahuvidi. So Prahlad Ari, so he is making that Prahlad is Ari means enemy. So he is somehow saying that, trying to say that Prahlad is not carrying the enmity with him. He has been his enemy and he is worried that he may again come. So what he is trying to say, that enmity was something, just like Drishta Krishna means he has seen Krishna, not that he is seeing him now. So in the same way, he was his enemy, means he has attacked him, not that he is attacking him now, in that sense. Yes. That is the meaning. Anything else?
Babaji, Aribol, what is the purpose of Lord Yasadeva to include such a detailed description of these dynasties? This is the first question, and the second one.
Okay, wait. I will ask this question to the audience because I have answered this many times. So why is Vyasadeva describing this? Who will answer this? Why is he just giving the list of these names here? That is her first question.
This is a part of the Manvantara.
Okay.
You mentioned last time that it's a part of the Manvantara, and we have the 10 topics in.
So this is one of the characteristic of a Purana. Purana, just like this Bhagavad Purana is a Purana. It is a genre of literature. So this is one of the characteristic of this literature, that it will always have description of lineages, this Vanshavali. It will also describe creation, it will also describe destruction, it will describe the avatars, Manvantaras, and especially this 9th canto describes the Manvantaras. There is Manuj and this. So this is the characteristic of this Purana. What is the purpose? Purpose is, as I have already said. Anyone remembers purpose? We'll ask.
So one of the purposes is that the reader or listener can identify with the personalities.
Yes.
Because one may have a similar name or the same name, or one may actually be part of that lineage.
Yeah. So just like we said earlier in the previous chapter, that the King Gadhi, when the sage Richika approached him and he said, please give your daughter to me in marriage. So Gadhi said, Kushika Vayam, that we are Kaushikas. So means he is talking about his Gotra, what you call, like in the West they call it family name. So in India we have Gotra, you can translate it as family name, but it has something more than that. So Gotra has different meaning. One meaning of Gotra, Gotra also means a mountain, because mountains protect the earth. Go means earth, Tra means protector. So it refers to the sages that they were protector of the earth. It also means a mountain because sages used to live on these mountains. Like we heard Parsuram is on Mahindra mountain. So it describes that you have a lineage from this particular sage. So you can identify that. So you remember them, you remember their characteristics, you identify. So one of the problem in the modern times is that people don't have any strong identity. And because they don't have strong identity, they don't have a strong moral value or character. Because they have nothing to hang on to, or they don't have anything to take pride in. So that for modern people they can do anything. They're like free to do anything. They're like not conditioned by anything, not limited by anything. So in India it is still different. Although Varnashrama has broken down almost 100%, but still people, I have some identity, I am a Kshatriya, I am a Brahmana. So then they have some sense of this identity which brings certain character, certain behavior, certain morality. And this is a very important benefit of having identity. When you do not have that, then you can marry anybody, you can eat anything, you can do anything. So then it doesn't matter to you. So when you have a strong identification like this, so then you say, well, this is against our family tradition. Right? And you say, Raghukul Reet Sada Chali Aaye, Prana Jaye Parvachan Na Jaye. What is he saying? That I belong to Raghu dynasty, means I am a Raghava, and it's not our tradition to not keep our word. So this is identity. So it is for that, this is one of the purpose that it is defined. And then also if you have, people also give names to their children on the basis of these kings, and then they can identify with it and develop that character. As we read about Madalasa, that she was inculcating the feeling of renunciation, detachment in the children's mind from the very young age. So from a very young age we were taught. I remember once I went with my father in the school holidays, to visit my father's sister. In those days there were no trains, no cars like this, you take a bus, then you have to walk a few kilometers. And this village was far away from main road, There's nothing, you have to just go by walk. So, and then whenever you went, you will stay 3-4 days minimum. 3 days was minimum. No one expected that they could leave before that. So after that, when we were leaving, it was raining. It started raining, and there was a lot of water. It's near bank of Yamuna. So actually the whole area was flooded, that you could not even see the path. So after some time we walk, and then it's heavy rain, and so I told my father that let's go back. It's raining, and how will we go? We don't even see. So I still remember this. He says, at that time I didn't even know what it means. He says, no, we are Kshatriyas. Once we start, we don't go back. I was very small, I didn't even know what is Kshatriya mean. But the sentence is still there in my mind. So he said, no, we are Kshatriyas. Once we put our foot on something, then we don't go back. So this is what it means. And if you hear things like this from your childhood, so then it goes very deep in your psyche. And that's what shapes your character. So this is the purpose. Okay, what was the second question, Bhadra?
Yeah, the second question, thank you, Badi. The second question was that there was in part of this description, there was some Kshatriyas that became Brahmanas. So, what was the process they followed to change their identities you were talking about?
So process is that you study Vedas and you take two austerities, Shram, Dam, Tapa, Titiksha. You practice these characteristics, control of mind, control of senses, doing austerities, all these things, and give up the Kshatriya activities. Just like Vishwamitra, how he became Brahmarshi. We already read how Vishwamitra became Brahmana. Anything else?
Babaji Maharaj,
Bola.
these Gotras, the originator will always be a sage.
Yes.
So there'll be only these 7 Gotras.
Originally, yes, but then there are more. So later on they became diversified because you have to see that many sages come afterwards. Originally there are only the sons of Brahma, Vasishtha, Atri, and so on. You still see people in India who have their name as Vasishtha, Atri, right? Kashyapa. Still have these names.
Sometimes people say that when you take this Vaishnava Diksha, then your Gotra changes to Vaishnava. Is it something like this?
Yes. Then your Gotra is Achyuta. Okay.
I just want one minor comment. So this Varnashram system was not that rigid as it is portrayed nowadays. It was very flexible. People can change their based on their qualities.
Yes. Okay.
I have a short question. Since you made Achyuta Gotra, often devotees in the West say that we are Achyuta Gotra. So a person in India would probably not accept that a Western Vaishnava is part of that. It's just a sentiment, or how would that be seen?
Which person would not accept?
I assume that a regular Indian person or a traditional person who is
Well, traditional person will have no problem, but now modern people who have no idea what Gotra means, they will have problem because they don't understand. So traditional people who know, they will have no problem. But normal Indian will have problem because they don't know that Vaishnavas have Achyuta Gotra. It's their ignorance.
So a person following Varnashram strictly, he would accept that Mlecha Vaishnava is a part of that Gotra? Achyuta Gotra.
Yeah, if he knows the Shastra, but that's what I'm saying, that who is following Varnashram now?
Yeah.
It's an imaginary question.
I had experience when I was going to learn Bhagavatam from one of the acharyas in Vrindavan.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, it is there. So it is not just Achyut Gotra, he is not teaching even to non-Brahmanas. So there are people like that they don't teach. Maharaj also told me that in Banaras there were some Pandits like that, they will not teach to non-Brahmana. There were some who would not teach to a sadhu, because they say the sadhus have no gotra. Meaning it's difficult to figure out what they are.
But why would they reject to teach someone who was a sadhu, who took to Vaishnava Gotra? Because they cannot force...
You see, you don't understand what is Varnashram. So it is difficult to answer these questions. Varnashram is a different system. We only hear the word Varnashram. You have to actually study Purvamimamsa, and then you will understand their psyche. That why they behave like this. From their point of view, they are right. Because everything they do according to the Purvamimamsa rules. So now this Achyut Gotra and all, it is not meant for Varnashrama. Just because you are Vaishnava and you have Achyut Gotra, you are not meant to do any Varnashrama thing anyway, if you are not part of Varnashrama to begin with. Achyut Gotra is not for doing Karma Kanda. So how would they accept it?
So these teachers of Benares, they were not grammar teachers or Nyaya teachers?
Yeah,
okay.
Grammar teachers, but grammar teacher means he has to be part of Varnashrama or what?
Yeah.
From where is he coming? He is coming from
Yes.
Varnashrama. So don't see them as a Nyaya teacher and this teacher. You see what is his core belief.
Okay.
Ultimately, what is he practicing? Grammar is not something you practice.
Yeah.
Nyaya is not something you practice. That is for studying and understanding. What is he practicing? Either he is practicing Gyan Marg, Bhakti Marg or Karma Marg. So what is the most prominent marg is Karma Marg. So that's what people were doing. So then they see you and you are not qualified, because the whole idea is that whom do I teach? I will teach somebody who has gone Upanayan Samskara at the age of 7 if you are a Brahmana, otherwise at least before 11 years or 10 years. So now these people have not gone through that, so they say you are not qualified. This is their thinking. Because if you follow Shastra, then obviously that is the process. So now you are 30 years old, you say, I'm Achyut Gotra, please teach me. He says, what? What are you talking about? So it doesn't fit in their understanding. So from our point of view, it looks crazy to us, but you also have to understand from their point of view, why they are doing it. We are thinking Vaishnavism is the supreme thing, best, nothing higher than that. They don't think like that. They think this Vaishnavism is just like a deviation from Dharma. These people don't follow anything. So in Banaras, Maharaj said that the sannyasis, they don't even bow down in a temple if there is no shalagram there. If it is a Krishna temple and there is no shalagram, they will not bow down. He said, this Krishna is a coward. And we are sannyasis, how can we bow down to him? Yeah. That's how they think. Only if there is a shalagram, then they bow down. Because Narayana, Namo Nama, that they do. But not otherwise. Okay, I'll stop here.